Yeah, Kevin, you can go ahead and get out of here.
The betrayal.
Second down is on the air. So we appreciate you and BJ just waiting another hour. Patience is a virtue. Get the heck out of our studio. Christian Gokel alongside Cody Queen and Cam Urshery here. Yeah, you know, these guys just sneaking in the studio, want to chat up a storm while we're trying to get on here.
While literally the last commercial break's playing. They're like, hey, you want to have a whole blown conversation?
Well, let's talk about what we were talking about. We're talking about you guys being old.
I was
Kevin.
old.
Kevin said he was night real early last night, and you came in today and said you just had a debilitating hangover yesterday.
Yeah, and I had some apologizing to do and everything. It was just
the point that you were in bed by 8 o'clock last night.
Oh yeah, I was. Yep.
What?
I mean,
that's old.
Hear this, and maybe some wise sage news for the younger folks out there, because I'm getting up there.
Yeah.
I got a little over a year until I hit the big 3-0. But that being said,
it's coming for you 90s babies.
But that being said, I did hear some advice the other day, which was you'll learn as you get older. Not being hungover feels better than being drunk.
Yeah, it does. Yep.
So I've heard that a few times now, and the fact that Cody's over here,
I'm fine today.
One night after some Sunday night beverages, he needed an entire
24
hours to recover.
Oh yeah, entire might have been more 24 hours. Might have been like maybe 32 hours. But yeah, no, not good. Yeah, don't do that, guys. But I did. At least I'm the one who texted back. Was like, nope, I'm out. Can't do it. My boy was online.
That's not even what I'm worried about.
On the Xbox.
That's not even what I'm worried about. What I'm worried about is you guys being old.
Oh no, I'm old.
It's very concerning because it's one of those things where it's like you can't see it because you're around it every day.
Mm-hmm.
But you guys are getting up there. I'm worried about you guys.
33, man. I'm old.
I'm worried about you guys.
I'm 33, 2 kids. Oh, and both in the double digits. Yeah.
I mean,
old man.
Cam, we've talked about this on the show before, but Cody has gotten to the point now where he still has a lot of the youth in him, right? Like I said, he'll do what he did on Sunday night. He'll hang out, he'll party, he'll throw down a little bit, but also at the same time, he'll post looking for recommendations on Facebook, right? So it's just he's kind of right at that in between where like every now and then it's like when you're listening to a station.
Yeah.
And the other station's kind of overpowering it, like you're driving through a city, so you're kind of losing it one station and moving to the next station. And so you're listening to sports talk radio, right? But then you all of a sudden you hear some nice soft 90s rock coming in over the sports talk. That's kind of what's happening to you in life.
It really is. I am phasing into the wear normal clothes too. I'm wearing pretty normal clothes today.
Cody,
most of the time,
I was about to say you look like a junior in high school right now.
Most of the time, yes. Most of the time I look like I'm just, preparing to go for a run or something like that, and I'm not. I'm just wearing workout clothes because they're comfortable, and I'm old, and I don't.
I'm hot,
and I'm hot all the time, so I can't.
When was the last time, like, not going out, but just like going to work or going to run errands that you actually were like, you know what, I'm going to dress up relatively nice.
Today, I was like, you know what, I'm going to put some beard balm in, and I'm going to put in some like Nike. I'm going to wear Nike today. And now that you said I look like a middle schooler, I feel like a middle schooler now. I feel youthful.
Cody looks like an advertising for Nike right now. We got the Nike trucker hat on. We've got a Nike gray T-shirt on, and then what are these, Cam? What are these?
90s, Air Max 90s.
Love it. Air Maxes on for Cody as well. So Cody just looks like a poster boy, and the Nike socks.
And the Nike socks.
The Nike socks as well.
You look cool today, man.
But the Goodfella shorts from Target. So,
like, if you wore that outfit to your junior year of high school all day, you're just like,
I'm sure. Yeah. Oh, everywhere, dude.
What's up, y'all? All day long. So that being said,
a drip. That's what they call it.
Yeah, and then Kevin comes in here and he was like, "Yeah, I was asleep on the couch all last night. Got home, closed my eyes, and woke." Oh.
He's like, I woke up.
That has to be a dad experience. Right? I don't remember falling asleep.
I got a homemade haircut and everything. He's so. I want to be like Kevin he is a decade older than me, and I hope I'm like him.
No, but that's a very unique experience because I can't remember the last time where I don't remember falling asleep and then waking up, because I get that from Kevin at least 4 or 5 times a week where he's like, "Yeah, I just woke up on the couch," and I'm like, that's like a different level of exhaustion.
Well, it's because when you're young that happens, but then you get carried to your bed. But you're old, you start doing the same thing, but you can't get carried to your bed, so you just sleep
a
where
lot
you
of man to
sleep.
carry to
Yeah,
bed.
yeah, yeah.
That's a
So
lot
you know
of
what I
man to
mean. So
carry to bed.
you start diverting back to a baby. You know what I mean? And the older you get, you end up going back to diapers, and you end up only eating soft food. You know what I mean? Like you start diverting back in time.
I mean,
Yep.
that's a different level of exhaustion. I have to like purposefully like will myself to go to sleep.
Like Kevin, what you like running a marathon or something like that? Was the little league baseball practice that overwhelming?
I don't know if it's little league baseball practice so much as he has 2 young boys.
Dude, and they're boys. Oh yeah, they are wild. Like I'm glad I got a boy and a girl, but
Oh, no,
my
his-
brother has 2 boys. And the
Eli-
same thing.
Like, if Eli and Red are listening right now, because I know they've been on the show before,
Oh yeah,
and they both have their liners on here. If you guys are listening, you guys are still banned from the studio because Kevin's youngest
yeah
got
they
to
are.
like while the show was going on, got into a fist fight
Oh yeah,
in the studio. Which that's
oh
what,
yeah.
that's what brothers are supposed to do. To be clear,
They're little.
They're very young.
Yeah, yeah.
Very,
Oh.
very young.
They weren't like
But-
2 16-year-olds
Yeah,
like
just
just beating the
throwing
crap
down.
out of each other.
No, they were brothers being brothers.
They're like 11
I
and
guarantee
10.
you,
Yeah.
the older brother like wasn't letting the younger brother play with the basketball and was doing the thing where I'm taller than you. I'm going to hold the basketball up, and things went sideways.
Yeah.
Bodies got thrown around, and I was like, "Hey, we're trying to do a live show in here," so they're still banned from the studio. But yeah, that's probably why Kevin is exhausted because he's just a WWE referee.
Well, even my
every
kids
single night.
are like not like they'll come here and be like, hey, you got to get, you know what I mean? It's a no kid zone inside the studio because I don't want some kid mess with anything they don't want to, like licking their finger and putting inside some socket or something like that. Like I don't want
True.
to have any kind of
Listen,
problems.
there's only one way to learn.
Yeah, and they might result in death. Like it's not. Let's
Well.
not do. Look at you, man. You're gonna have kids one day, and you're gonna end up. And someone's gonna say the same thing to you. Well, there's only one way to learn, and you're gonna be like, because I'm gonna have to deal with that. I'm gonna have to deal with
I
that.
don't know all the horror stories I hear about from you guys about having kids. It's
Yeah, don't do
Yeah.
it.
probably not going to happen. That being said, we do have a lot to get into today. Braves split their doubleheader with the Mets yesterday. Game 3 of that series coming up a little bit later tonight. We'll have full coverage for you on that. Also going to dive into Major League Baseball because yesterday, the first day of the crackdown on the sticky stuff. And we are not talking about Mariganja. We are talking about stuff that you put on your hands to make the spin rate go up on your baseball. So we'll dive into all of that in a little bit, but I did just kind of sticking with this conversation. Did you guys see what Lane Kiffin tweeted out on Father's Day?
I did not.
Did you see it, Cam? Lane
Nope.
Kiffin has a good persona on social media, but mainly Twitter. He's very good at Twitter, which I don't know if it's a compliment or not, but he's very good at Twitter. It started
No,
when
that's
he
a
was,
compliment. It's hard.
started when he was the head coach at FAU, where he just likes to troll people, and he's carried that over to Ole Miss. And so this past weekend on Father's Day, he tweeted out a Photoshop picture of like a dad in a white tank top holding an infant, but the face on the dad was Nick Saban holding Kirby Smart.
Dang.
And he said he put Happy Father's Day in there, and the A and Fathers was the Alabama A in there, which there's a lot to just kind of dive into and dissect from that picture. Number one, I could understand it if Lane Kiffin was still the offensive coordinator at Alabama, but Lane Kiffin is now the head football coach at Ole Miss, who hasn't played Georgia yet and has to play Nick Saban every single year. So I was kind of confused about that, like kind of one SEC West head coach kind of taking a shot at an SEC East head coach by pumping up another SEC West head coach. Like it was a lot to dive into there. I think Cody, if you're following us along on the stream, I think Cody's trying to pull this up right now. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, Lane Kiffin tweeted that out.
Oh, but like a jack.
Yeah, I mean, Nick Saban looks great. Number one, I mean, just got a little bit of ink going on. The biceps look great. Kirby Smart, he's a baby. He's still got the visor on, of course, but funny.
Is that
right?
a parrot?
Funny? Like the internet would have exploded if Nick Saban had tweeted this out.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But Lane Kiffin tweeted out, so there's a lot to dissect there. And also in the fact of the matter is, no assistant has ever beaten Nick Saban, so shouldn't Lane Kiffin have included himself in there?
Yeah.
I think that's the reason why he's saying Happy Father's Day, because that's his papa.
Yeah, but why use Kirby Smart?
That's his papa. Maybe he doesn't like Kirby Smart.
Clear
I don't know that
there's
they've
some
ever.
animosity there.
I'm just saying, maybe they bumped into each other and like Kirby Smart's breast thing or something like that. And he was like, "Don't like him."
Don't like that guy.
You know what I mean? Who knows?
I mean,
I don't
Cam,
know.
I'm trying to break this down, and it's
Yeah,
just,
wait.
it's
So they
real
never
interesting.
overlapped?
Not on the coaching staff.
That's weird.
Yeah,
Nah,
yeah.
maybe Kirby last year. I'll have to look up Lane Kiffin. So maybe it's just a friendly shot. But that being said, it's still weird that an SEC West head coach says Happy Father's Day to another SEC West head coach while taking a shot at an SEC East coach. I don't know, Cam, your thoughts on this?
Yeah, it's kind of weird. I'm lost too, but I mean, it's funny though. I mean, it's a lot of parody behind it, but I mean, it's clear animosity there. So, I mean, as of right now, you can't really argue it. Nick Saban's everybody's dad at this point. So, yeah, he's just got to prove him wrong. But it's funny. But Lane Kiffin needs to win some more games before he tweets this out. Just saying.
I love how it's like a frowny face Kirby, like he's an upset child. And then there's a parrot. Don't know where he got this picture from. I don't know what this picture is from, but he's got a parrot and he's at a zoo. And I would like to think, I would love to think this, which I doubt it. He probably just asked someone to do it for him. But I would love to know if Lane actually did the editing himself and did the Photoshop himself. I would be ecstatic
I
if he did that.
Kirby and Lane overlapped for at least a year while they were there. So
maybe they came like boys and they like to mess with each other.
He was the OC while Kirby was the DC at Alabama. So I mean, it's funny. I just think it's curious.
Very curious. Very weird. Out of nowhere, which we don't ever hear them two names in the same conversation unless it's like coming from the same coaching tree, which we don't even.
I was about to say we don't hear their name in the same conversation unless it's Nick Saban beating them.
Yeah.
And I guess that makes sense. Happy Father's Day. I thought it was funny. Came across the old news feed over the weekend. So curious, but I mean, Lane Kiffin, he does a good job on social media.
Very good.
So I got to give him credit there. Let's take a quick break. We'll come back. We'll dive into the doubleheader from the Braves yesterday. Jacob deGrom did Jacob deGrom things, but we also had the first instances of pitchers being stopped and inspected by umps. Peter Moylan, former Braves closer, or not closer, just setup guy, but bullpen guy, had an interesting take on this. So we'll dive into that when we come back right here on Second Down. Second Down on ESPN Radio is presented to you by the Uniform Source. Guys, we had our first instances of umpires stopping pitchers with no warrants.
No warrants.
To search them for sticky substances. We saw it last night, and really one of the first times the nation got to see it was Jacob deGrom, who's been battling some injury stuff, but to me is the best player in baseball right now. Maybe the most dominant player in any sport, period, right now. Coming off the mound after sitting down the side in order in the first inning against the Braves, walks off the field, gets stopped by an umpire. The home plate ump then walks up, takes his hat, takes his glove, takes his belt, and examines it for any foreign sticky substances that he could use to affect his spin rate or grip on the baseball. The rule is right now, only thing you can use is sweat and the rosin bag. It's something that's become prevalent throughout Major League Baseball with pitchers. We've seen the spin rates that have just been absurd, where the breaking ball is breaking an extra 3 or 4 inches from pitchers who hadn't had that before. But the rule of it is in Major League Baseball, if you get busted with one of these substances as a pitcher, you are out for 10 days, and your team cannot replace you on the roster for those 10 days. So you are a empty spot on the bench for 10 days, which really puts your team in a bind for almost, I mean, it could be as many as 8-9 games in a season that you're going to be without a player. So those are the rules right now. We haven't seen anybody busted for it as of yet with the new checks, but we've only had a day of it so far. What we have seen around Major League Baseball is a significant drop in spin rate, which maybe one day isn't a large enough sample size because a lot of that can be weather, right? If it's humid, that can affect your grip on it. If it's raining, temperature, all of that can affect the grip on the baseball. But I thought Peter Moylan, former setup guy for the Atlanta Braves, now with Bally Sports, made a really interesting point because he said during the beginning of his career, rosin and sweat, that's what he used. Got hurt, came back, was in spring training, and couldn't throw a breaking ball. Just couldn't figure out what it was. Thought it was maybe because he was out in Arizona for the spring, really dry air, just couldn't get a grip on the ball, right? Goes into the actual season itself, humidity's up, still can't throw a breaking ball. Another pitcher, and this is like 2013, another pitcher introduces him to sunscreen as a term to get extra grip on the ball. We've all used sunscreen, right?
Yeah.
Put some sunscreen on your arms. You sweat a little bit. It goes down in your hands. You kind of get that sticky sensation in your hands, right? Peter Moylan said that took him from being a pitcher who couldn't throw his breaking ball back to the pitcher he was. So back to the pitcher he was 3 or 4 years ago. And he did say this: if you're using sticky substances that are taking you from the pitcher you are to a pitcher whose spin rate and break on the ball has just become absurd, that's a different story than trying to just be the pitcher who you are. Because he took a brand new baseball out, which is what these guys get before every series. Took a brand new baseball, and you can just sort of see the sheen on it, right? Anybody who plays football knows you don't play a game with brand new footballs.
Brush it.
Yeah, those things are so slick.
Yep.
Right? Like a quarterback is really hard to get a grip on. It doesn't matter how big your hands are. Those brand new footballs are so slick. You do not play a football game with brand new footballs, right? Those things are out at practice. The coaches are beating the hell out of them. You're rubbing them on the grass. And obviously there's a standard that they have to meet in terms of whatever league you're in, but you're not using new footballs every game, right?
Yeah.
You're using your game balls, which if you grab those, they're worn pretty good because you can get a better grip on them. Obviously, with the whole Tom Brady thing, you have to reach a certain PSI with all of that. But that's a different story, right?
Oh,
You're
man.
not using a new ball. Well, what do they do to try to take some of that sheen off? They call it mudding a ball.
Yeah.
They mud the balls before the series. But what Peter Moylan said is the process for mudding the balls is so inconsistent. You have a clubhouse kid one night that's mudding the balls, and then the next series you have a clubhouse employee who's mudding the balls, and there's no consistency to it. But what Peter Moylan said is the consistency to it is this: as soon as he gets that ball and he starts sweating a little bit and that mud starts rubbing off, it's a brand new baseball again.
Yep.
Which is amazingly hard to grip and throw for these guys, especially in certain weather conditions. And so that's kind of where we're at right now, and it's going to be a crux for Major League Baseball is, do we want to give the pitchers the opportunity to actually control their stuff, or do we still want them throwing 101 miles an hour and just not being able to control it?
Oh, what do you mean by not being able to control it?
If I gave you a brand new baseball right now,
Oh, so you're saying they're not gonna be able to control it
Because they can't grip
without a
it.
6. Yeah,
Because
no,
they can't grip
I
it.
agree. If the batter is allowed to use this pine tar and all this other stuff, why can't they use something like this? You know what I mean? Everybody's like, oh, the rosin and the sweat. That dude, it's one thing. And it's not like it is making it better, but it's not making it a dramatic fashion where people are
It's not
like,
game changing.
holy smokes, no one can even hit these balls. You can still hit them and stuff like that. I mean, it's an advantage. These pitchers don't ever get these advantages, man. The hitters can wear gloves, all kinds of stuff, man. But these pitchers, God forbid you even do anything for them to get any kind of a spin rate or anything else to even help them. But the batters are allowed to do whatever the hell they want.
I mean,
to do
there's certain stuff like you can't have pine tar on certain parts of the bat. I mean, we've seen like
Above the bat,
we've
so
seen-
it doesn't
yeah,
harden it.
We've seen famous home runs that have been called back after they checked the bat for pine tar. So there is certain stuff that batters can't do, and there's certain gloves that they're allowed to wear and they're not allowed to wear in Major League Baseball. But I think it's a good point. It's a point that's been brought up by a few different Major League Baseballs, right? It's if you're a batter and you're complaining about pitchers using sticky stuff, don't use pine tar, don't use gloves.
Thank you.
We'll put a rosin bag by the box. You grab that, chalk up your hands a little bit, grip it like Brooks Conrad, and just get out there with no gloves, right? It's pretty fascinating. I do think they've taken this and made it a black and white issue where it's just like you're either wrong or you're right. There's nothing you can use except for the rosin we have right there. I think maybe if you had like a list of substances you were allowed to use, or just something different you put behind the mound that they're allowed to use, maybe. But I mean, literally, like with sunscreen, they're saying you can't use sunscreen. You can't use something that will alter your grip on the ball. So I'm playing in Kansas City or I'm playing in St. Louis. It's 100 degrees outside
Burn,
in the middle
baby.
of the summer. I'm not allowed to wear sunscreen.
Burn. They don't care. Don't.
I mean, I
Au
think that's
natural,
I
they
think that's a
said.
fair question.
Yeah.
I'm not allowed to wear sunscreen.
Yeah.
We'll say, well, I guess wear long sleeves. Like, is that
I'm
what we're
saying,
doing right? Is that what we're doing now?
They treat these pitchers completely different from hitters and all that stuff. You know what I mean?
Well, I
like
mean,
they really do. Like
by
at
the-
least they got some
by
help.
the pitcher's own fault, because the pitchers are using illegal substances to do it. So it's like by the pitcher's own fault, this is happening, and also by the CBA and all the other different stuff inside of this. But it's not like the pitchers are the victims in this. It's you.
I'm not saying they're the
you were
victims.
cheating, like you're putting stuff on the inside of your glove and do a little boop, and then
Oh yeah,
and
they weren't
gripping
doing it in a way.
Yeah, and
I
or
do
you-
agree with
or
that.
you
They're
put
like,
it-
it's inside my ring real quick.
or-
You know what I mean? You're hiding it.
Yeah, you put it on the other side of your hat and you go. Boop. It's just.
Yep.
I think there's a difference between, like Peter Moylan said, using something to increase your spin rate and using something just to be able to hold on to the damn baseball.
Yeah.
I think it's something there. So maybe it's just a different way of rubbing down the new balls. Maybe that's the best way to do it. Maybe it's you let the pitchers come together with Major League Baseball to say, listen, we can't just use these brand new baseballs and with nothing and expect us to go out there and control our stuff, because it's like that's how dudes get hit. I mean, we've talked about this beginning of the year. We were averaging a hit batter per game.
Yep.
And it's because these guys can't control it, and they're throwing faster than they've ever thrown before. And they're throwing. You have bullpens that have guys throwing 97 to 100 miles an hour for every single guy they send out there.
Yeah.
Where that used to be just the closer, right? You had these like special graphics in the stadium on the radar gun where it's if he hit 95, the flames went up. 95 is an average fastball now.
Not that big a deal anymore.
Yeah, 95 is an average fastball.
So the game needs to evolve with these athletes. That they really do. I mean, you're saying they're clocking in at 105, 102, whatever. They're like smoking them. But there's more people are able to do that now. Because I remember when Randy Johnson was doing that, getting like in the triple digits, and people were like, "What in the hell?" Now they're like, "Yeah, dude did 100. You know, that's
100
fast."
still impressive.
Yeah,
100 is still a lot.
it's still impressive, but you see it more.
And
you know what I mean? You see a lot more.
You see it a lot. You see a lot more hundreds than you've ever seen. But 100 is still impressive, right? And then you have guys like Jacob DeGrom, who, if you're just like baseline throwing 102 mile an hour fastball, that it's absurd. But I mean, again, he came out of the game last night. He was locating well. Ask Ronald Acuna and Ozzie Albies how well Jacob DeGrom was locating last night. He had no substances. He checked all the stuff, nothing. Checked him again in the fifth inning, nothing. So it's interesting, but again, some people sweatier than others. Some games are going to be different than others, but we have seen already a decrease in spin rate for a few different pitchers out there. I just don't know the sample size is large enough as of yet for us to determine the start date of them implementing this versus the spin rate being lowered for some of these pitchers.
Well,
it's going to be interesting.
So the way they do this is wrong in the first place. You're right. The way they hide it and stuff like that. I don't remember the last time where I've heard this, that the pitchers have come together and was like, hey, can we use this? Can we do this? They don't do that in the first place. So which really screws them over in the first place because they like hide it. They cheat.
That's why a lot of people are complaining about this, is because Major League Baseball pushed this through during the middle of the season without any sort of availability for recourse from the Players Association. So yeah, I think this is probably something they should have waited until the offseason to address, but I think it was getting so blatant that they felt like they had to address it. But I do think this is something that's going to be addressed in the offseason, hopefully by the Players Association, where they come together and say, okay, if we can't use this, what can we use?
There you go.
Like, are we really not allowed to use sunscreen?
Yeah.
Right? Are we really not allowed to use sunscreen? It's one of those things you have to come together and talk about. But I do think it's fascinating. It was really weird watching Jacob deGrom get like searched when he came off of the mound. But it's something we're going to see a lot of. I mean, it happened to a couple of Braves pitchers when they came off the mound. You're just getting stopped and frisked by the umps.
Yep.
I mean, it is what it is.
Checking the rings, checking the hats.
Like the umps are having to police now instead of just calling the game.
Yeah.
It's pretty fascinating. And then all the New York fans, of course, the New York fans just laying down the boo birds yesterday. But that being said, it's going to be fascinating to watch. We mentioned a little bit before, if you do get popped with it, you are out for 10 games and your team cannot replace
and you get kicked out the game right away,
10
right?
10 days, yes, you're ejected. 10 days on the calendar, you're out, and your team cannot replace you for those 10 days. Also, quickly here, though, the Braves split the doubleheader yesterday. They've won for the second time in as many days, 1-0, off the back of a Ronald Acuna solo shot. So I'm going to go ahead and need the rest of the offense to wake the hell up at some point.
That's
the two games you run out of the last 4 is solely off the fact that Ronald Acuna Jr. hit a solo shot.
Okay, well, this is what's going to happen. The bats are going to wake up. Bats are going to wake up, and the pitch is going to go to crap. And this is the way it's going to happen. Dude.
Well, I mean, again, you say the bats are going to wake up. They got beat 9-1 by Adam Wainwright in Game 1 of the doubleheader on Sunday. They won 1-0 in Game 2. They got beat 4-2 in Game 1 yesterday, and then they won 1-0.
Yeah, I'm saying it's eventually going to happen.
They scrounged together a grand total of 5 runs in 4 games.
So they're just bad on all of it. Unfortunate.
It's a weird team, man. It's a weird team.
No, it is a weird team. They will do hot on the pitching. Well, not for long though. They won't. They will 2-3 games.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's a good team.
Win by 1-0, and then they'll go hit 7 runs, and then lose 7-12.
They're a weird team.
I mean,
I don't understand
like that. You know what I mean? Like it's in between. They're an average team in the middle. So
I don't know that they are an average team. I think they're a bad team right now.
Whoa, my man!
They're 5-5 in their last 10.
I think they're a bad baseball team right now. Kim, you won 2 of those 1-0.
Get them.
They're not a good baseball team right now. So if they're not good, what are they?
Yeah, bad or
virtual combination
or below average.
Money. Alex Anthopoulos is doing a horrible at his job. I mean, I can hear that argument, but for the most part, I'd say you're missing a silver slugger catcher. He hasn't been there. The guy who was in the MVP race last year, who was your left fielder, he's not there right now. Your starting center fielder at the beginning of the year, he's not there right now. Your MVP from last year isn't hitting right now. None of those are Alex Anthopoulos' fault.
Yep.
So I don't know if you can put all of this on Alex Anthopoulos. I think it is a cumulative bad season so far for the Braves. I mean, bad luck, bad managing, bad playing, bad pitching, bad organizational moves. I think there's a whole lot of bad that's happened so far this season. I'm not going to put it on old AA over there. So we can put it on Freddie Freeman too. I know you guys don't like to bash Freddie Freeman, but he hasn't been great.
It's true. It's such right.
Yeah, he hasn't been very good. So without Ronald Acuna Jr. and a couple of huge swing from Pablo Sandoval, you're probably looking at a team that's double digits under 500 right now. I'm not going to say probably. You are looking at a team that's double digits under 500 right now. So that being said, not putting that on one person. It's been it's been institutional, I guess is the best word.
There you
Take a
go.
quick break. We'll come back here on Second Down. Second Down on ESPN Radio is presented to you by the Uniform Source. Glad y'all are hanging out with us today. Got a lot more to dive into here. Coming up at 4:35, we'll catch up with Dan Murphy from ESPN.com. He's been a busy guy the last few days covering all the stuff coming out of the Supreme Court, the NCAA, and their minimalist plan, quote unquote. And he also has a new story on ESPN.com surrounding name, image, and likeness and former USC long snapper Jake Olson, who, if you don't remember, he is the blind long snapper that played for USC a few years back. So we'll dive into all of that with Dan Murphy coming up at 4:35. But it's been an interesting week or so around college football, but much more so than that around college athletics as a whole, because, again, going in front of a congressional committee to argue for a federal plan for name, image, and likeness. In the meantime, over just a couple blocks away, the Supreme Court, a decision gets handed down regarding college athletics that says, hey, you can now cover the entire cost, any expense whatsoever that has to do with a person's education.
Yeah.
Right? So we talked about this yesterday. What does that mean? You can buy laptops because that has to do with covering someone's education. You can help fund expenses for internships, for study abroad programs, right? You can cover those expenses. And then there was like a cash for grades thing that I thought was interesting. We still haven't had that completely explained yet because the legal definition for cash is a lot different than our definition for cash. Which
we got Dan, baby.
Which is just greenbacks, right? Like that's just greenbacks, right? That's what we got right there. The Benjamins, that's cash to us. Cash in a legal term can just mean monies, other stuff like that. So we'll talk to Dan Murphy about that. But we've had a lot of really big, bold statements from some people. Paul Feinbaum said, this is the end of the NCAA, right? He said, this is it. And they're all kind of kicking themselves because they just re-signed Mark Emmert to a 6-year deal to oversee the NCAA, remain in his role as a president. So they're all kind of kicking themselves right now for re-signing him to that deal because according to Paul Feinbaum, when that judgment gets handed down yesterday against the NCAA, any CEO in America is getting fired if that happened to their corporation. But, oh no, you just re-signed him to a 6-year deal. So NCAA has that to deal with. So it's really a multifaceted thing that the NCAA is facing right now. You have name, image, and likeness, which they've put out their minimalist plan, right? So that's over on the left. Name, image, and likeness. So what is that? Coming up, Cam, on July 1st, players in Georgia and 18 other states will be able to profit off of their name, image, and likeness according to state laws. So what has the NCAA done about that? Because they know Congress isn't going to push anything through in the next 9 days. We have our minimalist plan, which means if you're in a state that doesn't have name, image, and likeness laws come July 1st, all you have to do is put something up on your website that states the guidelines for your name, image, and likeness, what the rules are for your school, and you will just be based off of that, and you won't get in trouble. Now, on the other side, you have the Supreme Court decision that comes down where there is no limit to the expenses a college can now cover for a student athlete. We talked about this yesterday where it used to be you had a limit on the amount of food you could give to your student athletes. Now there's no limit. But what, according to Heather Dinich and according to a lot of other people that cover this isn't the first step towards the end of quote unquote amateurism in college athletics. And it's not the first step towards pay to play. But what it does do is significantly boost the argument and future lawsuits against the NCAA in regards to blocking players from receiving payments. So what it probably does mean is sooner rather than later, we will start seeing some sort of money from institutions be transferred to players. But Cam, I wanted to ask you this, and I know it's an almost impossible question to ask, but when you look at schools, right, and this is from 2018, outside of some college football teams, some men's basketball teams, and I believe Tennessee women's basketball, outside of those sports, LSU baseball was the only profitable sport inside of NCAA athletics. So some FBS football programs some NCAA Division I basketball programs and LSU baseball were the only profitable ones. And so the argument that the Supreme Court is making is, look at all this money you guys make off of college athletics. You should pay the players. The argument a lot of schools are now coming back at the other way is, we don't make a profit off of a majority of our athletics. So I know it's an almost impossible question to answer. What do you think the fallout from all this will end up being?
Honestly, yeah, it's a hard question to answer. I honestly don't really know. I don't know what it'll end up being. I just want the players to get paid. I think this should have been happening like just a long time ago. I mean, they generate so much money to the sport, whether it's football, basketball, baseball, whatever you want to watch. They bring millions of dollars. I mean, what Zion did a few years ago when they played UNC, that was one of the like biggest games that brought money to the University of Duke and college basketball, and he didn't touch a penny, which is absurd. So I just want the players to get paid. I don't know how to answer that question because it is a hard question to answer. I just know the solution: pay the players, and I think everybody's going to get their money regardless. We all know this, so just pay the players, and it's good on both sides.
Smaller schools are going to lose. End of it. This is most. This is going to happen.
That's going to be one of the.
This is what's going to happen. That I can buy you an Acer laptop, or the other school that was talking to you can buy you a brand new MacBook Pro. You know what I mean? Like, boom. We can offer you $300 per good grade. This other school can offer you $1,000 per good grade. You know what I mean? That's the smaller schools are going to lose. They're going to lose 110%, and there's no way to really reverse it. Just like you're saying, it's a very huge topic that everybody's getting in on right now. Dan Murphy just tweeted, I'm looking on his Twitter right now, even Cardell Jones right now is currently addressing Ohio State's legislator about college athletes making money while in school. You know what I mean? So this is not just everybody who is playing.
Again, this is
also people who have played.
This is where it gets really, really vague, and it gets into a gray area, especially for the casual followers of college athletics. You're talking about pay to play, and then you're talking about name, image, and likeness. What Cardell Jones is talking about is name, image, and likeness.
Okay.
That's what he's referring to. That's name, image, and likeness. Boiled down to the simplest terms is the NCAA not stopping you from going out and making money by yourself.
So the
pay to play is a completely different conversation. That is a completely different conversation, because that then becomes schools who, a majority of schools, their athletic departments operate as nonprofits.
Yeah.
Right? They're not for profit because a vast majority of them don't actually make a profit. When you get done paying for road trips, paying for lodging, paying for the students' scholarships, when you pay for all of that, food, they don't actually make a profit off of a majority of sports. I agree with you 1,000% when you say not only the small schools are going to lose out, the Olympic sports are going to lose out. Stanford was ready to cancel, I believe, as many as 12 Olympic sports this coming year, but they eventually rescinded that, but they were ready to, just based off of financial fallout from the pandemic.
That's one thing. They're going to lose programs.
But it's not just that. I think small schools, especially if you tie in healthcare with this as well, I think we're going to see small schools eliminate athletics in general.
That's what I'm saying.
Maybe keep club teams. If you want to go out and play club football, fine, but I think they're going to eliminate scholarship sports in general once we see a lot of this. I think it might be one of the unintended consequences is you make it, players at big schools will make some money, but you'll also eliminate thousands upon thousands of scholarship opportunities for smaller
You'll
players.
Be crushing the little schools.
So we talk about unintended consequences all the time. It is a very noble idea to do a lot of this stuff, but also what are the unintended consequences of it? I know it's really easy to look at the NCAA as these villains, and they've earned that distinction very well. But I think also if you get down into what it was supposed to be, it was supposed to give everyone an opportunity to operate. And when you start adding some of this stuff, you start eliminating some of this stuff, you're taking that opportunity away. So a lot to dive into. Dan Murphy is much smarter than we are. We'll talk to him coming up at 4:35. Also catch up with Rich Styles at 4:20 as well. We'll come back. Final segment of Second Down next. Charlie Morton takes the mound for the Atlanta Braves tonight against Marcus Stroman. First pitch set for 7:10. We'll have full pregame coverage coming up for you just after 3 and out. We'll talk to McLean Baxley from the AJC, formerly of Savannah Morning News, covering the Eastern Conference Finals for the AJC. We'll dive into that with him coming up at 3:35. But Cam, I wanted to give you a chance to react quickly. Stephen A. Smith, well, number one, yesterday he said the top reason that the Milwaukee Bucks upset the Brooklyn Nets was karma. But then he also had just, I thought, a wild take, but one I want to give Cam a chance to react to. He said that Devin Booker is the next Kobe Bryant.
Yeah.
Oh, that's your guy. But to me, that seems like high praise.
Yeah. It's not legacy wise, but yeah, like play style, he plays just like him. I said this years ago. I've been liking Devin Booker since he was at Kentucky. He plays just like Kobe. Mid range, 3-ball, pull up, post fade.
Play like somebody, but is he the next Kobe Bryant?
Yeah, nobody
One
talks
of the
about
top,
the play style, dude.
in my opinion, 5 players of all time.
It's hard to say that because you don't know how many. He has to win 5 rings to be the next Kobe Bryant, which is a tall order. But I mean, mentality wise, yeah, I love Devin Booker. I always thought he was kind of like Kobe scored 81. The next highest scoring game was Devin Booker with 70. So he has the mentality, he has the skill to go out there and produce, I guess, somewhere on Kobe's level. But
All right.
legacy wise, it's hard.
I
Can't say that yet.
expected a violent reaction from Cam, but we actually got agreement with Stephen A. Smith there. Again, big show coming up on 3 and Out. We'll talk to McLean Baxley from the AJC. Also catch up with Dan Murphy from ESPN and Rich Stiles, host of the Back Nine Boys. All that coming up next on 3 and Out with BJ, Ben, and Kevin. We will talk to y'all tomorrow.